Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good
It's
morning.
nice to see you all. I do see familiar faces, which is just wonderful. Thanks for joining us back. I'm Robin Mallory. I'm with Urban Seeds, and I'm here, as always, with a dear partner, Denise Jamerson.
With Legacy Taste of the Garden from Lyles Station, Indiana.
Yes. And we want to give a big hello to our good partners at Evansville-Vanderburgh Public Library, specifically Ryan, who is making the magic happen behind the scenes. And we'd like to thank our partners at Trinity United Methodist Church, which allows us to use this wonderful kitchen. So happy to be here in honor of Black History Month. We're going to get to the recipe after a while because I'm going to step aside and have Denise talk with you about the reverence and importance of this special time.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this special edition of Book and Cook for Black History Month. I'm so excited today because Black History is a good month, and it's everybody has a history, and it's one of my favorite recipes, which is sweet potato pie. So we chose something that is culturally something that we eat as a culture. It's like pumpkin pie. You guys will find out it's a lot like pumpkin pie, but it's sweet potato pie, and it is a favorite in my home. It was a favorite when I was a little girl, and it's just a good recipe, and I'm all excited to show you guys how to do that. But I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about history and my history and just history in general. It's Black History Month, but it's all American history. And the people who we talk about on the History Month, they didn't know, or they don't know, that they're a part of history. Just like in Lyles Station, people were just living their lives. So it's called history because it's his story. It's somebody's story. And in my case, in Lyles Station, we are in a big museum in Washington, D.C. called the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And we're in there because our family, our history is doing farming. And we've been farming since before the Civil War. And we lived in Lyles Station, which was a community of people. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is, like, we even the women made a recipe book. And a lot of times there's a lot of history about the men, but women did a lot of things too. So they have her story, so as you live each day, you're creating history. And for us in Lyles Station, we know our story because we told our story. Like, my great-great-grandfather told his son, and then he told his son, and then he told his son. So you just live your everyday life and do good things and do things for other people in the community. And that's what the people in Lyles Station did, they did things for the community. Lyles Station is called Lyles Station because the guy named Joshua Lyles donated land so that the people of Lyles Station could use the train, could come through Lyles Station, and people could get on the train and travel, or they could put their farm produce on the train so it could go to different people and different families in different cities. So history to me is all exciting. I love history. As you live each day, you are going to be a part of history too. So, and I want to encourage you. Like I said, we learned from our elders, which would be your mother, your father, your grandmother, your great aunts, your uncles, and do things that are good for people, that help people. And because we didn't know we were going to be in a museum, we were just living out our lives. My dad's profession is farming, and he was just doing what he was created to do. So when you do what you are created to do and what's inside of you, then you make great things happen. So did you guys have any questions, or want to have heard about Lyles Station, or want to tell anything about your history? I know, like I said, I know that it's Black History Month, but history is so important to everybody, and to know the accomplishments and the things that help us to do more in the future. So whatever you do will help the people that come after you too. How about that? Exciting? So you guys will have to, if you get a chance, look up Lyles Station. And if you get a chance to go to DC, go to the African American Museum of History and Culture and look up Lyles Station, because we're representing Indiana. So we're the only ones in Indiana that are in this huge museum in Washington, DC. And if you can't go to Washington, DC, go to Lyles Station, ask your parents to take you to Princeton, Indiana. And there is a museum in Lyles Station too, to where you can go and see the things of the past. Okay, so we're getting ready to dive into this sweet potato pie. Like I said, this is one of my favorite recipes. So I hope Robin lets me have all of these little bitty sweet potato pies. So, and it's something that I learned. We'll talk about this book because the women of Lyles Station did their recipes in this book. And for me, when I make a recipe out of here, it just brings me so much closer, because a lot of them aren't here anymore. So my aunts and the ladies who I went to church with may put recipes in this book. So I get to make these recipes and I get to make them for my kids. And I want to pass this book on to my grandkids and my sisters. And we all have this book. Our mom has a recipe in here. Our aunts and the ladies that helped us act right in church have recipes in this book. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Robin. Thank you guys for coming again today. As we get into this is our kickoff kind of, but this season we're gonna be doing so many other things, so many different fun things. So keep coming, keep learning, and keep buying and supporting local.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Couldn't have even gotten close to how well you stated that. Oh, great. I see that Ryan put the link in there. Sometimes I know that this EVSC, the school system, if you're in public school, they take field trips up to Lyles Station. But some of you who are in other schooling environments might also be fortunate to make that happen. In regards to history, I hope you had a chance to look at the storytelling that was done by EVPL. Let's see, it wasn't Jessica. What was her name? Miss Joanne read a marvelous story called Pies from Nowhere. We included that in the link, not only on our Facebook pages, but also when you registered. The story was beautiful, and it was about how activists, those involved with civil rights activism, and as Denise said, they didn't know they were going to be written about some other time going forward in a book, but one of the pieces of that, one of the aspects of that book was about pie, specifically sweet potato pie, which is how we tied this all in with Black History Month. So if you haven't yet had a chance to view that story time, the link will be included here, so you can go back and look at it later, but it was very beautifully done by Miss Joanne at EVPL, and we're happy to build on that. So this recipe is really quite easy, and some of you I see are already getting started, but let me take a step back. I want to start by pointing out that you receive your eggs in a plastic container with the lid, your brown sugar in a plastic container with the lid, and your butter in a smaller plastic container with the lid. Please wash those containers, and then they can be reused for months and years to come. You can put them in your lunch boxes. You can take them for snacks when you go anywhere to play or visit outside. But we don't want to keep throwing plastic into the landfill. I know that might seem off topic from Book and Cook, but it's important for us to continue to take care of our planet. So please reuse all that plastic. I want to point out that and I did mention in the recipe that you received that if you make a pie crust from scratch, which is not all that hard to do, truthfully, it's just a little bit time consuming. You may have folks in your family that cook from scratch and make a pie crust. That would be lovely if you can do that. And if not, that's okay. But because I bought pie crusts and all this food in bulk, I could not find a 9-inch, which is a standard size pie crust. I could not find one that didn't have additives in it that, as a nutrition aware person, I didn't want you all as growing young future leaders to eat. So I did not buy the big pie crust. because I didn't like the ingredients. These have real butter in them. There's no preservatives or anything that is used as a stabilizer. It's a little weird to have so many little pie crusts, but we kind of eyeballed it and thought that 6 of these little ones would be close to the equivalent of a single 9-inch pie crust. So I did want to explain that to you. And we'll go ahead and get started. So hopefully you've all pre-baked your yams or sweet potatoes and you've had them cool down now. If you haven't, that's okay. If you're going to catch up later, that's okay. I have already taken 2 of the 3 yams that we gave you and peeled them and got them mushed up. But I baked these last evening and I put them in the fridge. And because the skin is chilled, it just peels right off. Now, if I was going to eat this myself, and I love sweet potatoes, I would just put this right in my mouth and eat the skin and the potato all together. We're not going to use the skin in this recipe, but it does peel off very easily and quickly because it's cold. We don't want to put these peels, if we can help it, into the trash because that just goes into the landfill. Maybe you don't compost in your family, which is fine, but there are ways to use those peels. One of the things you can do is I am going to, when you're not looking, I'm going to eat these peels because I just love sweet potatoes and a lot of the nutrients are in the skin and a lot of the fibers in the skin. So right now I've got this little bowl filled with the peels or the skin of 3 sweet potatoes. I'm going to set that aside, but it doesn't have to be thrown away. You can eat them or compost them.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why we want to use local fresh produce and things that are good for you, is so that you guys can also get into the practice of eating healthy. Eating healthy makes your body healthy. So in order for you to grow and do things that your body needs to do and stay healthy, it's good to eat local, and it's good to eat fresh, and it's good to get all the nutrients and things in your body that you need from the food that you eat.
Yep. The longer something sits in a truck and gets sent from halfway across the world or California on one end of the country compared to us, the lower nutrients are available. So I take because these were already pre-baked, they mush up very nicely. So I've gone ahead and kind of mush down the sweet potatoes. You could certainly use a potato masher if you want and all, but I didn't find that necessary. And now we're just going to go through the ingredient list and add things one at a time. So you've all got your can of evaporated milk. That gets dumped in. And again, for those of you who have enjoyed pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving or any time of year, this is virtually identical to a pumpkin pie recipe. And in fact, yams and pumpkins are in a similar, well, yams grow underground, pumpkins grow on a vine.
Yeah.
But would you consider them to be similar? I mean, squash versus a root vegetable.
Well, because it's like a potato.
Yep. Okay.
And like you said, one is on the vine and one comes out of the ground.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, and I'm just literally going to dump everything in before I mix. So next comes your cup of brown sugar.
Sweet potatoes there is a difference between a sweet potato and a yam, and you can do so many other things with the sweet potato. Have you guys eaten a sweet potato any other way besides, or have you had sweet potatoes before? Do you eat them?
Yep.
When do you have them? Do you have them at a holiday meal, or now you can get sweet potato fries? So have you guys tried the sweet potato fries before? Yeah, they're pretty good.
So good. Yeah.
They're pretty good. So you can eat sweet potatoes in so many. Some people just eat them as mashed potatoes. So instead of regular white mashed potatoes, they'll have mashed sweet potatoes.
Right.
So it's very, very, just like a lot of vegetables, you can do a lot of things with it.
And for the fries, you take a raw sweet potato after it's washed, cut it into quarters or cut it into eighths, and rub a little bit of olive oil, put some salt and pepper on them, put them in an oven at 350 for, about 20 minutes, and you've got a way of baking your own sweet potato pie. Okay, so we've added the evaporated milk and brown sugar. I'm going to break the eggs one at a time and put them in.
You know what? I have become famous for the sweet potato pies in my family. Yeah, my aunts and uncles, they want me to fix them a whole pie all the time. So, and they almost get to fighting a little bit.
I have to taste yours.
About the sweet potato pie.
So I have already melted my butter. If you have not done that, you can either take, and you're going to use all that we gave you, that's 5 tablespoons. You can either, if you'd like, put it in the microwave, or you can put it into a pan on the stove. You'll want to be careful of the heat there, but I'm going to add the melted butter.
Also, let me say that it's like we always tell you, you can do it to taste. So when you're making your sweet potato pie, if you want it a little bit sweeter, you can put a little bit more sugar in it. The cinnamon and the nutmeg, when you guys get to that and you smell it, and that's what I do is I usually go by taste. And in this recipe book that I use, which is a sweet potato pie, she says a scanty of milk. What's a scanty of milk, Robin?
That's a good question. I would imagine it's just a splash.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. So I go by this
Yes.
taste. Like,
and is that milk in addition to evaporated milk?
no.
No.
Well, it says a scanty. It says it's just a scanty of milk. And she put, I use cream. So sometimes with me, I will use sweetened condensed milk
Yes.
instead of the evaporated milk.
In a pumpkin pie, actually, I do that.
So
condensed
it's
milk,
according, because some people may not want their sweet potato pie really, really sweet.
Right.
So you can cook it, like I said, to taste. And so I kind of got my family's wanted taste down to a pat.
Yeah.
So I kind of could make it like that. And I do a lot of stuff by taste.
Sure.
That's
what makes cooking fun. You all got the 2 tablespoons of vanilla in a small container, which that too can be rinsed out and reused for like a little bit of salad dressing. So I'm going to pour in 2 tablespoons of vanilla. And this is the real deal vanilla, everybody, in case you're wondering. It's not imitation vanilla, which is why I think it smells so heavenly. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and mix this up right now, because you can see I've got a big kind of a liquidy bowl full. I'm going to stir in all the liquids into the sweet potato insides.
For Black History, a lot of the seeds that were brought here from people who came from Africa, when they came over here, they would put these seeds in their hair. Yeah. So we were able to bring things that we were used to eating here. And a lot of the women that came to Lyles Station, when they came from across the United States, when they migrated to Indiana, they also brought seeds in their hair, because unlike us, there were no stores. There were no grocery stores. They didn't even have gardens. They didn't even know where they were going, but they knew that there had to be ground where they were going. So they brought seeds in their hair, and they were able to grow their own food, along with identifying edible food where they went.
It's a beautiful part of history. So you have the nutmeg, and if you want to, as Denise suggested, open this up and get a good whiff of it before you pour it in. Nutmeg is one of my favorite spices. I use it not only for sweet things, but also for savory. Savory is another way of talking about a flavor profile that's not sweet, but I'm going to dump this whole.
Not like scanty, huh?
Yeah.
But we didn't say the definition. The definition to me was to taste. Because I had no, and as with this book, like I said, a lot of the ladies are no longer here. So I couldn't just call her up and say, hey, what does scanty mean? So I just kind of took that as, let me just do a little bit, on how I'm putting it in on what way.
I'm going to add the half teaspoon now of cinnamon. Very strong flavor.
Mm.
I was surprised to see in this recipe actually that there was more nutmeg than cinnamon. That's not
Mhm.
always the case. Usually
And as
nutmeg.
we always tell you, these spices have different things in them that help you medicinal effects, which is kind of like medicine. That's what medicinal means. But those spices also do things for your bodies too.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a very good way.
So I'm going to mix in the spices. I actually forgot to pull out salt. If you have salt, it's all the way up on the top there if you want to hop onto it. The neat thing about salt and what we may have talked about in previous sessions is that even though it only calls for a little bit, salt brings out the sweetness in things. That might sound weird because salt is certainly not sweet, but salt does bring out the sweetness. It's way up top, Denise. You see?
You want sea salt?
Sure. Yeah. So once you've added things, you should be stirring in what seems to be a rather thick kind of a pudding consistency almost. Thank you. And I'm just going to take a scanty of salt. And we don't include salt when we provide you with ingredients because we do make an assumption that probably most people do have salt in their home. So I did add in the salt. I'm going to mix that in.
So in this book, she says a few grains of salt.
Right.
So a few grains is, like Robin said, just a little bit.
Yep. So this is what I have. Yours should look somewhat similar, if not very similar. How does that? This is a kind of a thick mixture. Yep, I see. You want to be sure your spices are all blended in. So kind of go around the sides of your bowl and underneath so that the cinnamon and nutmeg especially get mixed in.
You want to make sure that if you don't mash it well, that when you're stirring it, you get a lot of the big lumps out of it. You don't want to have a big lumps. It's not going to hurt anything if you do, but you generally in your pie, you don't want to have a big hunk of sweet potato.
You want it to be smooth.
Yes.
And some people, if they had a hand blender, a hand mixer, or even the old fashioned kind that you do, gosh, they probably have one here too. You might, if you want it to be even smoother, you could use that. So, what I'm going to do next, and I learned this when I made the sample last night, I'm going to pour some of my batter into a measuring cup because it's got a pouring spout on it. So you all got 6 of these. And as it turns out, I found out a couple of little bits of information when I made this last night. You're going to have a lot of batter left over. That's the way it turns out. I knew there'd be some. I didn't realize there would be so much. So just to show you, because of the pouring spout, it makes it a lot easier for me without spilling more than I've already spilled on the table, just to go ahead and fill up that small pie shell. Did everybody have a chance to see me do that?
Are we moving too fast?
Okay. And I mean, this is one of the easiest recipes we've done. Again, we chose it because of its deliciousness and its cultural relevance.
Seriously, it's going to be the best. One of the best.
Yes.
My favorite.
Yes.
I'll just say that.
But when I baked these last night, this is what they turn out to. I saw that one of the adults already pulled out a baking sheet, and that's exactly what I did. So I took all 6 of these filled pie shells, laid them on a baking sheet just so that it wouldn't spill over my oven, and each one of them baked into just this beautiful little mini pie. Can everybody see that? Which we're going to bite into probably pretty quick here.
You know what? That's not a bad idea because then you can't overeat. And actually, I can make my aunt and them. I'm going to have to make little ones like that so I can make them their own personal pies. And then
Yes.
that won't be, I have to make a big pie for all of them.
And if you have brothers and sisters or family members who aren't necessarily always happy about sharing, now at least you each get your own pie. So yeah.
Or somebody wants to come and cut half the pie as their piece. So that's what they do at my house. So we have to, they'll have their individual
Right.
pie.
Right. Or somebody will cut a huge wedge.
Right.
Yeah. So this is what one of the 6 looks like finished. Do you have any questions so far? And this is as beautiful as yours will look. Now, I wrote on the recipe.
4 chats.
I made, I think though that Ryan has added a bunch of stuff.
Oh, okay.
I knew that a smaller pie would take less time to bake than if we had done this into one big pie. And I had said we'll bake for 15 to 30 minutes. Well, I'm glad I just guesstimated because of my experience in baking. And it actually took 30 minutes for these to come out. I mean, I would call these perfect, actually.
Yeah.
The texture's lovely. And yeah, so you'll want to put these in your oven at a preheated 350.
You're tasting it. Do you like it? At Martin House, do you like it? Does it taste good?
Yes. And if you wanted to add a little more brown
Sugar,
sugar, by all means.
Nutmeg,
Yeah.
or cinnamon?
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to show you, and Denise is going to talk more about this too, but I mentioned in the recipe that there's going to be some leftover. And in fact, there was. I would imagine I probably only was able to use about half of the batter in the 6 pie shells that I brought home. And then I had enough left to pour into here and make my own little pudding. And Denise is going to talk about that.
Yeah. At our house too, for Thanksgiving or when we have our dinners, we do what is called Mama's sweet potatoes. And she actually has her recipe in this book, which is My Mama's Sweet Potatoes. And what she does is once we make the filling for the sweet potato pie, she'll put it in a baking dish and she makes this yummy, 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 yummy topping that she puts on top of it. So instead of having like just the sweet potatoes on the side, this recipe on the side, it has, you put the brown sugar, pecans, flour, and butter and mix it up and put it on the top and then bake it that way. But you don't bake it first, but you put your filling in the bottom and then put that topping on top. And then you have what is called Mama's sweet potatoes, which is really, really, really good. And if you guys have cooked with us before, we've done other recipes where we did a topping on the side. And then in this book, just as our culture, we love sweet potatoes so much. There's another one in here where someone else did their sweet potato casserole, which that's what she called hers. But what she did was she put, so if you don't have nuts, she put cornflakes on the top of hers. She put cornflakes and a brown sugar and a stick of butter. So a whole different variation to that. And then there was one more in here. And I didn't even realize, but I'm going to be doing these recipes. I didn't realize that there were other sweet potato recipes in here that the ladies of my church, of my growing up home church, had put in here. And then let me also say that you can also get a pie crust and go ahead and make the bigger pie. You know, I also would venture to say that if you don't want to cook all of that today, you can maybe freeze it. Can you freeze that and then use it at a later time? Or this can be your a side dish for your meal tomorrow, right? And not necessarily be a pie. But one more thing is that if you do dairy, you can get some whipped cream. A lot of people may put whipped cream on the top of theirs also.
Yes, I thought about that.
So
I almost cut into this last night to see what it would taste like. But I wanted to look pretty for this. So I'm going to try this as a pudding. It's delicious. It's got a caramelized. It's so good.
Yeah. So imagine some pecans and brown sugar.
Right.
You don't need it, but this is a good snack. This is a good dessert. This is good.
It's
for
healthy.
You.
Yep.
It's good for you.
So whatever doesn't fit into your 6 pie crust, You're welcome to bake it or add, as Denise said, like her grandma or her mother and her mom before her did with flour and brown sugar and was there an egg in there?
No, it's just like your apple crisp.
Oh, and butter.
Yeah. So you mix that together and then just sprinkle it on the top of it and then break it. Yeah, with the pecans. Like I said, if you don't do nuts, I just seen that she put cornflakes. So I'm gonna have to try that one.
So after you pour, pardon me, after you pour your 6, we'd love to know what you did with the leftovers. Maybe with the help of your folks, you can either take a picture of it and post it on the Urban Seas and Legacy Taste of the Garden Facebook pages, or send it back to Ryan in an email to the address you got from the library. We'd love to know what you did with the extras. That would be fun for us. And once you have those poured into your pie shells, you are ready to put them in a preheated oven, 350. For now, it's 30 minutes and they'll come out just perfectly beautiful like this. And we, again, would love to get your feedback on how delicious you thought that was. So before we talk about the book and cook season for the rest of the year, do you have any questions, anybody, or comments?
Alex is filling some little ramekins and gonna try like a creme brulee.
Oh, that is incredibly sophisticated. I love it. I imagine that I would have enough for a ramekin or two. I never thought there'd be this much left over. So all of that is lovely. A ramekin, by the way, is just a small dish. Yeah.
You can drizzle it with caramel if you have some of that at home too.
Yeah,
you can make this healthy recipe so unhealthy, but it's good. Sweet potatoes are awesome.
Yeah, yes, and very filled with vitamins and minerals.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that with us, Ryan. I think it was Ryan who's going to do the ramekin fill. What else any other questions or comments? So we've just started planning for the 2023 season. We're wanting to stick in that about 3rd to 5th grade reading level, but we're willing to be super flexible because we know how popular this program is. We were blessed to get full funding for the next 2 years for 30 kids, 30 students. Some of you who have been with us for a while, if you're interested, if you register for this coming season, which will be June through November, we'll meet every month for one specific local food related recipe that's going to be tied into the books that the library is going to be choosing and giving out to kids as well. When you register, we'll be able to cross-reference your name, and you won't get another cooking kit because, again, we're trying to be mindful of our resources, but anybody who hasn't been with us before will get a whole cooking kit like you've all received, those of you who've been with us before, and then you'll always get the ingredients every month, and you'll be able to do the cooking on your own at home with us alongside on a Saturday. So you keep looking for that, and Ryan will send out emails later once we get all the details managed, but you're welcome to invite your friends to join us as well. Again, we hope to have up to 30 students joining us this summer and into the fall.
And we're really excited. We're going to try some new things and bring on some new people, new recipes. So this is going to be really, really, really fun year. It's going to be, so we look forward to booking and cooking with you guys.
There you go. Yeah. Anybody else want to say anything before we wish you the best in your baking and enjoy every bite of your sweet potato pie?
I'm making custard and putting homemade whipped cream on it.
Yum.
Fantastic.
Yum.
I'm going to come right over after this. Thank you.
Yeah. That sounds really, really good.
It's really an honor for us, from my perspective, to have Denise be here to share with us all her experience of having rich and deep ethnic connections to the African population who were brought over here under very difficult circumstances, and that we get to celebrate that history and learn more from her and her family and people around us who have had some of these same experiences. It's really a gift to us all, and I appreciate that you've all been so attentive and respectful. It's really important.
Yeah. And I am so humbled and inspired that my family and the families around me shared their story, and they told us their stories. Because like I said, it's just somebody's story. And everybody has a story. And even with that, it helps us to know why we're called Legacy Taste of the Garden is what our legacy is, because what my grandfather did is what my father did, is what my son's doing, because that's what they were created in a sense to do. And that's what makes them happy to do. So let me just say that if you guys reach out to me, if you might even have an interest in this little recipe book, this recipe book is a soul part of my soul, and it's got a lot of the recipes from the women at my church. So I give this to all my little nieces coming up. So in a sense, I'm still passing down a history from the women, because the men were out doing the work, but the women had to feed them and keep them healthy. So these recipes are easy and fun. And if you would be interested, just hit me up on Legacy Taste of the Garden, and I can see what I can do to get you a book of this culturally type recipes.
So thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to Ryan for having the whole back end of this navigated and managed. Thanks to EVPL. Thanks to Trinity United Methodist Church. We'll look forward to seeing some of you in June. And again, if you want to take pictures of your finished product today, we'd love to see those. You can post them on our Facebook page, Urban Seeds, or Legacy Taste the Garden, or the library, or send Ryan.
And please tell your friends about us. Please tell them so that they can cook with you, or maybe even invite them over with you one Saturday and they can cook. And these pies will last for a while. So if you want to take one to school for lunch or to share with your friends, you can do that.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody. Happy
Have a good
Saturday.
day.
Bye-bye.